and gentlemen, welcome. Saturday morning. Looks like we got a little bit of latency here. Hopefully that clears itself up momentarily. Hope everybody's doing well today. It is a blustery January morning. Well, we made it through the second anniversary of J6 yesterday. And in doing so, we ended up with the new Speaker of the House, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. After 15 rounds, he finally was victorious. That was kind of weird because Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert both voted present. And it was really close. Hakeem Jeffries nearly won. I mean, he had 212, and McCarthy, because Boebert and Gaetz opted to vote present, that dropped the threshold down to 216. So to me, that shows that they were saving face, and that McCarthy basically gave in to their demands, because they had a list of things that they said that he had to agree to, otherwise they weren't going to vote for him. And what that tells me is that he acquiesced. They found some common ground, whatever, and those two, rather than vote yes, they were able to save face and vote present, which I don't like that. If you're elected by the people of your state to go in there and represent the people of your state, then you need to vote one way or another. It's not about saving face. It's like, I mean, I understand it. It's all about being pragmatic, and sometimes you got to have common ground and or whatever. But if McCarthy agreed to the premise that they set forth, and they were satisfied, then they should have, in fact, voted. I think that's just my opinion. I think that this bullshit of these people, these Congress people voting as present, is nonsense. You're there to make a decision. You're there to make a call. You've got to do it one way or another. You're there to represent the people who put you there. So to vote present when you're sitting there, to me, I mean, like I said, on one side of the coin, I can understand it, right? They'd been negotiating back and forth. McCarthy was willing to not give up. It just went back and forth. Those two were leading the whole thing, of no Kevin McCarthy. Quite frankly, I think Byron Donalds would have been better suited, but whatever. It is what it is. They're done with it. They had a bunch of theatrics too, which was kind of funny. Gaetz is sitting there. I've got this up right now. I mean, it's not even really worth watching, but McCarthy goes up to where Gaetz is seated right next to Boebert. And then you've got Rogers, this youngster from, where the hell's he from? I gotta even find my notes. This kid's he's just a little kid, but he goes up there and tries to play phone tough, you know what I mean? And it's pretty funny. Let's see if I can find it here. I'm trying to remember this kid's name. I want to say it was Mike Rogers, but I could be wrong. But he goes up and he kind of gets phone tough. But you look at these guys, it's like, really, who's going to do something here? It's like, you got Orville Redenbacher is right in the middle of it. Let's just pull up a little monitor. What's it spell? Monitor. All right. So there we go. There's a still. You got, let me get a little volume here. We'll just play a section of this. So McCarthy goes up. Look, got Orville Redenbacher right there, and then here comes the kid. Oh, is he leaving already? I guess all right, here we go. He said, my bad. So this guy over here with the orange tie, yeah, he was real threatening. How funny. Oh, God. I mean, what a clown. It's just a goat and pony show is all it is. You know what I mean? It's just nothing's going to change. It doesn't matter. You know, these the Republicans are going to, they're just going to trip over their, genitalia. I mean, I sit here and I'm looking at this paused shot up here on my monitor. I took it off the screen, but you look at him, and I mean, it's funny to watch the action that goes on in the background. I made a meme yesterday of a guy that was sitting right there at that back row, and I don't know what representative he was, but he looked like Lyle Lovett, and he had his tongue out like a camel. And I don't think I put it on here. I wish I would have, because it'd be hilarious, but I didn't. So I'll put it out on Bookface and Twitter. Anyway, so we got Kevin McCarthy. Now the Republicans are ready to go be, lame ducks, because they're never going to get anything through the Senate. And then even if it was by some, Hail Mary that it did, it's still going in front of Sausage Neck, Joe Biden. He's not going to sign off on anything. I mean, so it's just like they're just going to butt heads now for 2 years. And then, they're going to decide whether Biden's going to run for another 4 years. I mean, he called January 6th yesterday. He called it July 6th. Did y'all see that? I mean, it was the biggest, threat to our democracy since the Civil War, which was the way he phrased it. So for it to be that big of a threat, and to have happened 2 years ago, after he had gotten a record amount of votes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. He mopped the floor up with Trump. Of course. Who's doubting that? Who would doubt? Come on. No way. He just mopped it up. Good old Joe. I mean, that's how you win an election. You sit in the basement and you get hair plugs and some kind of weird plastic surgery and get your ears moved and shit like that. And then you just come out and just blow everything up. Literally and figuratively. And then you go on vacation. I just don't understand why we are even putting up with this shit. I mean, why are we flying this son of a bitch around? Why? He's getting ready to go down to the border. Like tomorrow. Or today, I think. Today he's on his way. Why are we paying for that? He hasn't been down there in almost 50 years in politics. He says he has, but the closest he's been was driving through on the campaign trail with Obama in 2008. His goofy-ass border czar, she hadn't been down there. I mean, she sat there and lied on TV to Lester Holt. She goes, we've been to the border. He goes, no, you haven't. She goes, well, I haven't been to Europe either. Huh? She's so dumb. I don't know how she ever passed a bar exam. I don't know what the hell's up with that woman. I mean, at one point I thought maybe she would be all right. This was like, back in like 2015 or whatever. I'd heard her say a few things that seemed kind of okay. And I'm not on either side of the fence. I don't like any of them. But the Democrats are really, the Republicans, they're both the same thing. It doesn't matter. They're the same thing. I mean, you look at this still shot that I've got up here on my monitor. I mean, just do that if you're interested. If you're so inclined, just take a still shot. Just put C-SPAN on and push pause and look at the animation or the lack thereof of all these people that are making all this money, and it's not really a real job. I mean, they're putting on suits and ties, and half the time the goddamn place is empty. And then they don't vote. Show up and vote present? What kind of shit is that? Have a backbone. Say yes or no. That's what you're there to do. So Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, I understand that you guys made a concession, I'm sure, and that was part of it, was that you would just vote present in order for McCarthy to get his 216 votes. I guarantee that's how it played out. They probably said, we're not voting for you, but if we vote present, then it takes basically what it did was it dropped the necessary amount of votes from 218 to 216, and so McCarthy beat Hakeem Jeffries by, 4 votes, 216 to 212. And then when Hakeem Jeffries gets up there and hands over the gavel, what's the first thing that McCarthy does? Instead of being gracious, he waves it over his head and he wangs it twice on the fucking thing, and then he makes some joke. I mean, shouldn't you be a little gracious? Like, it just took 15. This was the longest one since like 1859. And that one lasted months to confirm a speaker. So this dude just went through 15. You know, and I don't know what to say about this, because the Democrats, when it was Nancy Pelosi up there, the squad, there was no squad. Like, they were just like, Pelosi, you know, we're not gonna, you know, force the vote. We don't give a shit. We're just, you know, fucking Pelosi. The AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, the fucking Ro Khannas, you know, whatever the squad is. The squad. What do you mean the squad? What are you? You bunch of turds. You got a bartender, a fucking mad scientist, and fucking a liar, Ro Khanna. Who else is involved in that? Fucking Cori Bush. Yeah, a racist. They came out and called, she called Byron Donalds a prop on Twitter. Called him a prop. I mean, whew. And her district in Missouri is one of the worst in the country as far as drugs, murder, you know, you name it. I mean, I like Byron Donalds. I don't know. I've not found anything wrong with it. I mean, he's a thoughtful man from what I see. I like that. He sits back and he shuts the fuck up and he listens to what people have to say. And then when it's his time to speak, he speaks. He doesn't talk over people. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't have a need. You know, they asked him about what he thought about being targeted. And he let the media all have their questions and everything. And he this was out front and, you know, outside. And he just looked at him and he goes, I'm 6'2", 275 pounds. You think I'm worried about being threatened? I was like, oh, dude, that's stone cold, bro. I mean, straight up. I mean, what a great answer, you know? And then you got these guys posturing like they're going to, like, here, look at this. I'm going to pull this picture up one more time just because this is fucking hilarious. Like, these guys are some kind of tough guys, you know? I mean, you look at these clowns. They're just ridiculous. I mean, you've got, you know, McCarthy marched all the way up there. You know, and then Gates is pointing at him, and he's got Lauren Boebert on the side. He's like, you better watch out or I'll sick Lauren Boebert on you. I don't know if the tweet went through the other day, but I think I made a joke because it was like every time they would get up there, they were like nominating some other, you know, it's like, I nominate this turkey sausage over here for Speaker of the House. Like, what? Anyway, so that's done. And maybe they've reached an agreement. Maybe they'll be able to, but they're not going to be able to do anything anyways. I mean, all they can do is initiate legislation, and then it's going to go to the Senate, and it's going to get shut down because you know which way. I mean, Kamala is the tiebreaker in the whole thing. So even if you get a couple of Dems to flip flop or whatever, and it ends up in Joe Biden's lap, he can pocket veto it. He can veto it, whatever. And you know he's going to veto it. You know, he's just going to sit on it. He's going to veto it, whatever. You know. So they're really not going to be able to do anything. So, but they can also shut down anything that the Democrats introduce, which would be nice. But as we saw with the last great spending bill that went through for $1.7 trillion, which has just been pushed under the rug. There's no talk about it anymore. $1.7 trillion, people. And where's it going? 858 billion is going to the military, going to the, you know, going to that budget. And then the rest is just kind of like undeclared. Well, where the hell do you think that's going to go? Wall Street. Where do they get this money? They don't have any money. It took $1.7 trillion to push through for them to keep the government open for one more year. 1 year. $1.7 trillion. I don't think you all understand how much that is. And I don't think you understand that it's not even any real money. It's like, if I had the capability to do so right now, and I'm going to do this at some point. I'm still working on how to do it because I don't want to do any Sam Bankman-Fried bullshit. But I'm still working on this. And I'm trying to come up with just a token for doing like a barter and trade type shit on Facebook or on social media. and just giving these tokens out to people, so that way you can have it as a unit of trade. I mean, it's no different than what it's actually probably better than what these assholes are doing, because it wouldn't be corrupt. It would just be like, here's your unit of trade, and you can use it in these forums. And I would give a certain amount of these tokens out to anybody who, you make a comment, you make a purchase, you make an interaction, you post an item that you have for sale. Boom, you get hit with, a certain number of the tokens. I mean, what's different with that than, I mean, it's the same thing as crypto. It's the same thing, I mean, we're just as, here, this is a nice piece. This is an awesome piece of red jasper I have right here, right? To me, that's worth more than the money in your pocket. That's a beautiful stone. I mean, I could, piece of chalcedony that's got rose going through it. That's a beautiful stone. I don't even want to throw that in a tumbler because it's just nice. I'll probably soak it in something. I mean, I've got garnet sitting over here. Nobody's ever hit me up on guitar picks. You guys want guitar picks? I got custom made guitar picks. Yeah, they're lovely. Anyway, neither here nor there. But we got Kevin McCarthy. And at least on the bright side, we don't have to look at Skeletor anymore and her eyebrows that are stapled way up on her head, I mean, good God. What did she have for a, what do they call the people, a makeup artist? And would they, like, take her head, yank it back, and just, like, take a tack stapler and just tack that fucking eyebrow right up there on their head? Jesus. Speaking of which, have you guys watched anything from United Spot? I probably can't put any of their stuff up, but you should check it out. It's called United Spot on YouTube. Hilarious. Just awesome. So that being said, it's back to business as usual in DC. Don't expect anything to change. They said the first thing they're going to do is get rid of the 87,000 IRS agents that are coming for your ass. We'll see what happens with that. I doubt it. We're going to go into some of the things that suck right now. The Brian Kohberger case in Idaho. He was extradited from Pennsylvania after being arrested there. Now, I first of all, I have to make a retraction here because I had said October 13th in a previous podcast, and it was November 13th. I made a mistake there. So, as I said, if I make a mistake, I'll always try and retract it and make it right. So that was my fault. I had the date wrong. I don't know why I said October, because I had it written down, and I'd gone over it over and over, and for some reason I kept saying October. So my bad. I don't think that's very consequential, but it was a mistake that I made. So they did the probable cause release of the affidavit, which I have to say is pretty damning. And I kind of wondered why he was so quick to agree to the extradition. And it was because he wanted to see what was in this thing. And I don't know if he's got something up his sleeve. There's still a lot to be seen. He and let me iterate this. I'm not going to reiterate it. I'm going to iterate. He is innocent until proven guilty. But the burden of proof it's very much stacked against him. And I don't know how he gets a fair trial in that small community. I mean, everybody, he's already guilty, and it looks bad. It looks really bad. And, he left that sheath for that K-bar marine knife, which was what they said that they thought was used, was a serrated, knife, just like I think they actually said that. I think that law enforcement knew a lot more than they let on, but I think that they had to do that. Steve Gonsalves, he was understandably upset with the progress that things were taking, but I got to say that for being a small police department, those guys in Moscow, they asked for assistance, they got the help, and even though they had a lot of pressure, and everybody was saying, "Oh, it's going cold. These guys aren't doing it." I think that they did what they had to do. Now, people have said, and I made this assumption the other day. I said, "Well, maybe they pulled over this Koberger in Indiana twice because that I was like, why wouldn't they just have the state patrol stay off of him?" And then somebody made the comment that, well, they pulled him over twice and didn't give him a ticket because they wanted to look at his hands. And I looked at the video. I have the capability to zoom in. I didn't see anything necessarily abnormal, but I mean, we're talking about, on the drive out there was it was well over a month after these things had happened. So, I mean, he had the chance to heal up. The thing with the sheath, though, that's where they got the DNA. He left the sheath of the knife because this is the K-bar is it's a what they'd call a full tang knife. It's not foldable, and it's also got, I guess, what you'd call a hilt on it. But it's still going to be difficult not to cut yourself, and especially when you're a guy like this. Now, I wonder. It's curious if they're going to turn up anything else. Is there going to be some other? Because now they got his DNA, so they got the DNA from the sheath that was left right there on the bed next to Madison and next to Kaylee, and it was just a little bit of DNA on the little snap, right, to hold it in. Part of me can't help but wonder, did he leave that there? Why would he have not had that like on his belt? Would you go in? How are you going to leave that? They didn't say it. I mean, it's a leather sheath. If it's on your belt, I mean, unless, I mean, maybe his belt got torn. I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see. I mean, one would think that there'd be a lot of commingled blood, and one would wonder what the hell he did, not only with the murder weapon, but with the clothes he was wearing. They said that they were surveilling the house in Pennsylvania, and that he was out there, and they said he scrubbed every bit of that car, and that he even took bags of trash over to the neighbor's house. Now, that tells you right there. Okay. You want to play? We could play devil's advocate. Sure. Maybe their trash can was full. Maybe he asked the neighbors. Maybe somebody called over there and said, could we just throw a couple bags of trash in here? Highly unlikely. In all my years left, I've not ever done that. I mean, there's been times where my trash can's full. I take a bag, throw it in the back of my truck, and then go drop it in a dumpster somewhere else. But it's not because it's right after I just got done, douching down my truck after, being accused of murdering 4 people in cold blood. So as I said previously, either this guy is, either he was set up and in the wrong place at the wrong time, or he's the biggest psychopath that, of our time right now. And it's appearing that, I mean, I don't know. I can't say one way or another. It's all going to come out in the wash. I mean, there's a lot of weird anomalies. There's a lot of weird shit about it. And like I was saying, maybe because of how weird it is, maybe that's why it happened. I don't know. And they haven't said anything about how he may have known, these girls. Obviously, he wasn't there to murder Ethan Chapin. My thoughts on it are that he moved there to Pullman, and being the vegan that he is, I'd like to see how that works out in prison for this guy. They're going to be like, fuck you, man. You're going to have green fucking hot dogs, chicken, just like everybody else, motherfucker. You're going to starve. He'll be PC'd up, though. He's going to do his time. He won't be on mainline. I don't know what the prison situation is in Idaho, and I don't understand, quite frankly, how the FBI got involved in this, but yet he's not going fed. My curiosity is, are they waiting to come up with, some more exculpatory evidence, and then the feds are going to come in and take it over? Because to me, the dude crossed state lines. He crossed state lines to commit the murder. he crossed state lines to escape because when he left, and the phone thing too. The phone went off at 2:47 a.m. Didn't come on till like 4:48, and then the phone pings, and he drove back by at like 9 something the next morning, like twice. I mean, for being a genius, I mean, who knows the way this plays out? But it is bizarre. It is really. This is some cuckoo wacky shit. I mean, it's real easy to say this is 100% the guy, but I mean, the thing is so strange. I'm not sure what to expect. I mean, you could say it one way or another. I mean, hopefully the system works. I mean, I just, and the thing is, what it comes down to as well, and is that regardless of what happens in the courtroom, it doesn't bring those young people back. I mean, everybody's got their time. But then you have things like this that happen, and you just go, why in the fuck would this happen? It's like the family that the husband murdered. Oh God, happened in Enoch, Utah yesterday. A guy named Mike Haight had 3 girls, 2 boys, his wife and his mother-in-law living in the house. And 2 weeks ago, his wife had filed for divorce. I'm making the assumption that they're LDS, just being where, I mean, Enoch is right there next to Cedar City. It's a pretty, I mean, obviously Utah LDS, but nothing against LDS, nothing like that. But his wife had filed for divorce, and the mother-in-law was there to help her through it, apparently. And he had gone into the home and taken all the firearms out. Well, the mother-in-law, who was 78, and his wife, I believe she was 40, they'd both been trained to use firearms. And his wife had made the remark to a friend that he had taken the firearms and left them vulnerable. I mean, out here in this part of the world, Wyoming, Utah, places where it's, Enoch is not a very big community. I think it's 6,700, 6,800 people. It's not that big. But it's down on the, it's down in southern Utah by so it's closer to, Arizona and, New Mexico's right there and Nevada. And I'm guessing there's there's probably a lot of cartel traffic that goes through that area, I would guess. I've not been down there, but that would be an assumption of mine. So I'm sure that the LDS folks are armed and ready to defend themselves, as they rightly should be. But anyway, this guy, Mike Haight, kind of crazy name for somebody that kills his family, but it's Haight, like as in Haight Ashbury, Haight. He goes and kills the 5 kids, the wife, the mother-in-law, and then he turns a gun on himself. So 8 dead. And this stuff, it's crazy how this stuff happens in these small towns, And I don't know what the answer is. I've been doing a lot of research into psychopathy and how do you recognize it? Can you even fix it? And then there's guys out there that, there's one cat out there I saw that was a scientist, and he was doing a study on psychopathy, and it had to do with MRIs of the brain and, reading what part of the, of the brain fires off when it, under certain scenarios. And they were, somebody didn't show up, so they needed a control. And so he jumped in there, and the test came back, and it showed him to be a psychopath. And he was like, and then all of a sudden he realized that it explained a lot about his behaviors over the years and a lot of his lack of empathy and his risk-taking desires to have fun and shit like that. And he wrote a book about it, and I watched a lot about that today too. So, I mean, the brain is a crazy thing. I don't know about this guy. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I don't know if they're going to find, other bodies on him, because he hasn't had his DNA wasn't on file. And that's the other thing, folks. I did one of those ancestry things because I was curious about it, but guess what? My DNA's out there. It's been out there. It's on I mean, they don't even have to call Ancestry or 23andMe because they've taken. I mean, they have it. So, you know, Jackson and I were gifted those like 4 years ago for Christmas, and I didn't want him to take it because I don't want his DNA going to them. I mean, but mine. I was sitting there looking at the thing. I was like, well, what's it going to hurt? I mean, the first place they're going to check is going to be, you know, the federal database, and if there's anybody related to be involved in anything, guess what? It's going to come up. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that, so why not? I figured I might as well figure out, like, you know, my ancestry. And it was kind of cool, but it was exactly what I anticipated anyways when it came back. But that's neither here nor there. But that's how they found this guy, because his father had done one of those. So this guy's fucking stupid. Either he's stupid or he planted that. I'm wondering. Half of me wonders, did he leave that sheath there to try and like throw the authorities off, like for them to look at somebody that was in the military? But then he fucked up and he accidentally like got some. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. There was the bloody fucking shoe print in the hallway. They said you couldn't see it, but there was blood on it. So they're gonna, you know, they've swabbed that too. And the car, I mean, it doesn't matter how good he cleaned the car. I mean, this is something the guy was studying, but he was not. I mean, this is all alleged. I'm not saying one way or another, but it doesn't look good for the dude. And, you know, in the whole fucking scheme of things, the people that I really have a lot of respect for is Steve and Christy Salvis. And I can't even imagine, I mean, being in Steve's shoes, right? I'm a man, so I don't know how to look through a woman's scope on anything like this. But he said some things and he was upset, but you know, he cared for his daughter. And he said he just wanted that dude to look him in the eye, and he wouldn't. And he said he wasn't as brazen and pompous as he thought he would be, but I mean, that dude he's shown a lot of grace, because there's not a lot of dudes out there that would be that way. I mean, to go sit there in that courtroom and sit there and look at the back of the head of that guy and to have those thoughts running through your head. I mean, that's and then to be so forthright and to show the grace that he's shown. And they straight up asked him, well, what kind of thoughts have you had? And he's like, yeah. He goes, but it doesn't do any good. And he understands that that in acting, that, the whole eye for an eye, I mean, I think they're pushing for the death penalty. And that's one of those arguments that, I don't know quite where I stand on that. In a case like this, I don't know. Does this guy need to sit in prison for the rest of his days and have the taxpayer pay for it? He should never be able to see the light of day again. If in fact he's convicted of this and it's proven that this was him, then if this guy did this, then no way. And what do you do? I mean, there's who plays God in this situation? Are we going Old Testament, New Testament? Are we going? I mean, what do we do? This is a tough question. It's a difficult question to answer. All I know is that, and I'm not going to say thoughts and prayers or hope and pray. That shit doesn't fucking mean a thing. I mean, when you tell people that thoughts and prayers, what, you think your prayers are doing it? What are you doing? What are you doing? What's that? I think people are just so fucking terrified when something bad happens to just say, fuck, I don't know what the fuck you're going through right now. And, if you need to talk to somebody, you got an ear to fucking chew on over here. Figuratively, not literally. Not like the poor son of a bitch that had his face chewed off the other night in Portland. I don't know if anybody saw that. He was a 78-year-old man. Some fucking idiot chewed his ear off and chewed through his face. Guy had to go in and, I mean, it was terrible. They said it was so bad. Oh, God. Portland, what are you doing, Portland? I used to live there. I used to like you, Portland. You fucking suck. Seattle, you suck. San Francisco, you fucking suck. Los Angeles, you suck. Fuck all these goddamn. Philadelphia, you suck. Chicago, you've sucked for a long time. DC, you suck. Atlanta, you fucking suck too. All these cities, what the fuck is wrong with you people? What is going on here? And when I say you people, I'm not talking about you people. I'm just saying, what's going on? Stop killing one another. We're not here long enough for this. There's nothing that can't be solved by just fucking turning your back and walking away from it. Somebody disrespects you, so fucking what? Walk away. Somebody owes you money? Fuck them. Walk away from it. Guess what? You just bought them off. You're never going to have to loan them money again. I've had to do that before. I've been so pissed off over money with people that haven't paid up. I'm ready to go, and then I sit back and think, wait, what are you doing, dummy? It's like, you just got rid of them. You can go make fucking money. I mean, so what? Somebody disrespects you, what? Fuck them. Walk away from them. You don't need anybody's approval anyways, I mean, I watched that happen a number of times, being locked up where dudes took the high road. I watched my boy Big Dan. Shout out Big Dan. Maybe you hear this, maybe you won't, but this fucking jerk off came in our unit and fucking tried to swing a chair at Big Dan. Big Dan, military dude, and fucking this dude swings his chair at him. He just caught it, fucking smashed it. I mean, dude's got a walker. Like he was, that dude talked me off the ledge. I don't know how many times where things were about to go sideways, and Big Dan would sit down and he'd go, "All right, young man," that's what he always called me. And he'd give me that wisdom that I needed, right? And he'd be like, "You need to, settle down," and he'd always tell me, "You're not going to be here forever," and I mean, straight up, I that dude, I got nothing but respect for that guy, So Big Dan, if you're out there in Kentucky, tell your people not to vote for Mitch McConnell again. Anyway, now I'm looking at what else we had here to go over. I was just going to touch on the Kohberger thing. I didn't know what was going to come out with the affidavit. I've got it all printed off. I mean, you can get it. It's out there. Let's see if I can find it here. Hopefully that didn't just take my stream off the air. Where is this guy? All right, let's bring him up. The Kohberger. All right, we'll move him up to the other monitor and bring the stream back up. Hopefully that didn't go away. Looks like, hey, we're still going. Look at that. I'm learning how to use the computer, ladies and gentlemen. And for that, you should be proud of me. So why don't we go through this just a little bit? I mean, if I've got your attention or if you feel so inclined. I went through and highlighted it, and this is kind of something I do. I read shit. I like to read. I mean, I obviously didn't read the 4,155 page House bill that they fucking pushed through. The hell, none of them did. But this is the probable cause. This has a nice sound. I was just gonna try and make this a little bigger, because I'm sure nobody can read it. Move my little tiki tack. Now, anyway. So we got 4 p.m. on the 13th of November, which I mistakenly called October 13th. Sergeant Blaker and I responded to 1122 King Road, and this is from Brett Payne. And he is a officer with Lata County in Idaho. He's employed by the Moscow Police Department, and he is a corporal and training. Anyway, his credentials are right there at the top. They didn't get there till 4 p.m. the next day, so it had been approximately 12 hours. All right, but there was already people on scene. They were processing it. As he states here, and this is from Mr. Payne, Corporal Payne, I guess we call him, Major Payne. Upon the arrival, ISP forensic team was on the scene, and they were preparing to begin processing. him and Officer Smith. And Smith was one of the initial responders. He advised him that he would walk him through the scene, which I can imagine it was pretty fucking grisly. So they went through the front door, the bottom door, and they went to the west bedroom of the second floor, which was that was the Kernodle room belonged to Xana. That's where Xana and Ethan were at. As he approached the room, he could see a body, later identified as Kernodle's, laying on the floor. Kernodle was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon. And then also in the room was a male, later identified as Ethan Chapin. Here after Chapin was also deceased with wounds, later determined, autopsy report provided by Spokane, and then it goes redacted. This is, I'm assuming, talking about the injuries that he received, because it goes redacted for almost a little over a page. And then County Medical Examiner redacted, dated December 15th, and to be caused by sharp force injuries. I just went through and highlighted it. So he went up to where Madison and Kaylee were at. Both were deceased with visible stab wounds. And Payne says, I later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogan's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had K-bar and the USMC and the Eagle globe and anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. Now, where Kohberger got this knife, I don't know. I guess you can probably buy them online, I guess. I don't know. Maybe he bought it at a pawn shop. I don't know. Who knows? The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA, suspect profile, left on the button snap of the knife sheath. So out of all of this bloody mess, that's where they got his DNA. And that's what they had to, they ended up, he was not in the database, and so they used one of the, I'm guessing either Ancestry.com or 23andMe, and it was a ping on his father's. And so when he went out to Pennsylvania, they were surveilling, and that's when they were watching him with the trash. And so these agents, I don't know if we're talking FBI, if we're talking DCI of Pennsylvania, who we're talking about, they didn't say. But these guys went and they grabbed the trash, and they were able to make the determination that it was like 99.99998% positive. Now they're going to come up. Obviously they've swabbed him. They're going to run a full, a full deal on the, whatever they call it. I'm trying to think of the terminology for the DNA. It's eluding me. So anyway, so Chapin, Kernodle are seen by the other roommate. I'll just call BF. I don't want to say anybody's name that is not in the thing. All you got to do is look, though. You can find the name easy enough. But they were at the Sigma Chi house, the frat house, right? And BF stated that Chapin did not live in the residence, was a guest, and that at 1:45 a.m., Chapin and Kernodle returned to the King Road residence. Gonsalves and Mogan were at the Corner Club, which that's the local bar. There was footage of him at the grub truck. They had the hoodie guy behind him, which they said he's had nothing to do with it. They caught a ride. One account that I heard was that the dude that gave him the ride didn't pull all the way up in the driveway because he'd been there before, and there was always stuff going on. There's footage of the police showing up there during parties. It's not a big deal. It's a college town. I mean, it's curious though, and it doesn't matter, the connection between, Kohberger and these girls. It's not really, it'd be interesting to get that information. I'm sure it'll come out. My thoughts are that the dude showed up and he was moving, and he probably was not wanting to fix something to eat. So he probably got online and Googled someplace where he could get his vegan food. And I'm guessing that the Mad Greek over in Pullman showed up. He's 10 miles away. He's like, I'll go over there. And I bet that this is just a guess. Okay, this is just an opinion. This is not factual. There's nothing to this other than this is just my pontifications. I'm guessing he showed up there, and he's got a history of being weird, awkward, and saying screwed up shit to female service staff. Kaylee, from what I understand, worked at the Mad Greek in Moscow. I'm guessing that he showed up and probably came onto her, probably was inappropriate with her. Maybe there was some kind of maybe he pushed it too far and she said, look, she probably got creeped out and said, stay the fuck away from me. Maybe one of the managers threw him out. Maybe he'd been thrown out. I don't know. I don't understand. Maybe this didn't happen at all because none of it's come out. They seem to know about every other little place, so maybe I'm just making shit up, but it's like, how did he get to know these individuals? One of the Uber drivers said that place was a known, he said he'd driven people there to get drugs. This guy was said to have been a heroin addict. Now, to be a TA in 3 different classes and getting, working on your doctorate, you're a pretty functioning heroin addict. If that's how he met him, if he was getting drugs from there, I don't know. They say the thing started in June, but he didn't graduate from DeSales in Pennsylvania until June. The first information I got said that he had shown up in like August, but then they say that the first evidence of his phone pinging around that tower right there on the King Road residence was back in June. If we go down through this, so anyway, the driver gives him a ride back by 2. And then they had said that the thing happened earlier, but Kernodle got a DoorDash order at 4 a.m. I don't know what's open in Moscow, Idaho at 4 a.m., but it's a college town, so I imagine there's probably some kind of a place where you can get some food or whatever, And then downstairs you had the other roommate. There was 2 of them that survived. And DM was awoken at 4 a.m. and she said it sounded like Gonsalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms on the 3rd floor. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Gonsalves say something to the effect of, quote unquote, there's someone here. Review of records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed this could also have been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated that she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12. So she was still alive at 4:12 a.m. DM looked out of her bedroom but didn't see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. DM stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," in quotes. Okay, who was that? Was this... Did Ethan get up and go in there and find her? Or was this the guy saying that before he plunged the knife? If that's what he said, that's some sick ass shit. That's sick. So at 417, security camera located at 1112 or 1122. They got the address wrong. I think it was 1122, wasn't it? Not. Gotta go scroll through. I think that was a typo. They need to be careful about that. They should go through and somebody should proofread this shit. I thought it was 1122. I could be mistaken. Maybe I'm the one that's fucked up and wrong on it, but yeah, there it is, 1122. So down here it says 1112. Maybe that was the neighbors. Maybe the neighbors had the security camera. I just didn't see that prior, that there was a different address. Okay, security cameras located at 11. Okay, okay. They got it right. My bad. My apologies. That's the neighbor's residence. They had a security camera. It picked up distorted audio, what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times, starting at 417. And the security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. Then the DM downstairs, right? This is the other roommate. She was on the 2nd floor. She opens her door for the 3rd time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows, which totally fits the guy. Now, are there other dudes like that? Sure, there's other dudes with bushy eyebrows that are 5'10" or 6 feet tall. I mean, I'm roughly the guy's same height and weight. I'm 6 feet, 190, 195. He's 6 feet, 185, whatever, But he walked past her. And it says she stood in a frozen shock phase, which there's 3 reactions that people have to situations like that. People will freeze up, they'll run away, or they'll fight. Sometimes there's a combination of all 3. Sometimes it's 2 of the 3. Sometimes, she froze. And he walked right past her. Now, he just killed 4 people. Was he feeling the bloodlust? Was he, what? Why did he, he just went right out the back glass door. She locked herself in her room. And then the police weren't called until like noon. So there was like 8 hours that her 4 roommates were laying there dead. The dog was locked in a separate room. So what happened with her? Yeah, you freeze up. Everybody reacts differently. Like when I'm in a scenario where something goes sideways, for me, everything slows down. Like it slows, it goes slow. There's, and I know I've been in scenarios where that happens, but then like, getting into, brawls and fisticuffs and shit like that, like it slows down, but then I'll see, it's just like, I see red and sometimes don't remember, but people, every person's going to react differently. And we're talking about a young female, obviously, but it's weird. I don't, nobody knows, I guess at this point. Was she out drinking? Did she go in and fall asleep? She obviously didn't see. If she went back in the room and locked her door, she didn't see what had happened. There was obviously people coming and going from this house all the time. But this is a dude all blacked out with a mask on, and she'd heard the crying and it's okay, I'm going to help you. That just that term right there means that something's obviously wrong. Did he go and get Kaylee first? And then Ethan heard it and got up and went in there and saw her, and the dude was maybe putting the dog in the other room and locking it in there or something. And then, but the thing is that both of the girls were on the same bed, and I don't know where they found. I don't know. It's so crazy the way this all played out. It's all going to come out. But anyway, as we scroll down, they detected the shoe print showing a diamond-shaped pattern similar to a pair of Vans outside the door of DM's bedroom, who managed to survive this whole thing, which they say is consistent with her statement. They did an extensive search and a video canvas. And then they saw the vehicle. And the dude's, his phone went dark from 2:47 to 4:48. And the suspect vehicle is observed traveling westbound in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive at 3:26 a.m. and westbound on Steiner at Idaho State Highway 95 at 3:28. And they said he didn't have a license plate. They're saying that 5 days after this that he got his license plate changed, but his registration was up, and he was planning on returning home anyways. Not to say that he didn't have an incentive to change his license plate, but so yeah, 4:20 there was video footage starting at 3:29, ending at 4:20 a.m. He made 3 passes by the house and then left via Willetta Drive. And the officer said that, there's not really much going on at that time of night. even on a, early Sunday morning, even after a big football game. And then so 404, he can be seen entering the area a fourth time. So he entered the area, drives by, flips around on Queen Road, and drives back westbound on King. And so the DoorDash guy showed up just at 4 o'clock. So he just missed the DoorDash guy. And let's see, it says, when suspect vehicle was in front of the King Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen and King, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn. How do you do a 3-point turn in a goddamn Hyundai Elantra? Come on, dude. That thing's a little, come on. It's like this. Come drive my truck, buddy. I got to do a 3-point turn, and I live on one of the widest streets in this town. And so he turns around after his 3-point turn in his Elantra. Suspect vehicle is next seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. at a high rate of speed. He's next observed traveling southbound on Walenta. So they said they saw him going by, likely exited the neighborhood at Palouse River Drive in Conestoga. And so then he went on a drive about, but then he turned his phone off too. So the phone had been dark. So these are just all surveillance videos. So the phone didn't come on until a little later. Apparently he went to, initially they said it was an 11 to a 13. And then upon further review, they also said it could be an 11 to a 16, which turned out to be a 15. I guess there's probably not too much difference between them. I mean, everything I saw looked like it was the same car. So he does this drive about and then ends up back in Pullman. So at 5:25 he gets back to his place, but then the guy, like, his phone pings again, and he shows up back over there. There's all kinds of maps and stuff on here. You guys can look this stuff up if you're so inclined. I just find it's just such a bizarre thing. I mean, and none of this changes any of it, but it's just like, I don't know. I guess if we can figure out these warning signs for people like this, and, this never happens again. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, shit like this it's just one of those things, no matter how good the world is, I guess you're always going to have, psychopaths and people that just do fucked up shit. And I don't care how, I mean, they said the guy, the people, he got bullied and picked on, and you know what? Who hasn't? He was a fat kid. Guess what? I was a fat kid. I got picked on for being fat my whole life until I turned like 15. And I grew 6 inches in one summer, and it sucked. I got fights all the time. Had to, but I was sick of fucking getting bullied. They said he got bullied by girls. I never got bullied by girls. It was always the dudes. It's there to call you names and shit. And finally, I was like, fuck it. I'm taking off on you. You're not gonna, different times. So you know what I mean? Back then you'd get into it with somebody and, it'd be done, and then that was it. You didn't catch any more shit. But they picked up on the car early in the game, and the dude apparently stayed there till like the 13th. And they put out the notice to the public on the 7th of the white Hyundai Elantra. But they had already seen it in Pullman, ran the plates, knew who it belonged to, pulled his driver's license, saw the picture, saw the bushy eyebrows, the height, the weight. And so they, right there, they had 19,000 some odd tips on this thing. So, I mean, they were trying to, quite frankly, looking back on it, I mean, I'd say these guys did a good job. I mean, it had to have been very difficult because they're getting pressured by everybody. I mean, the national news media and everybody locally. I mean, and this was an emotional thing in a small town. I mean, when something like this happens and it hits that close to home with, and it's just something so brutal and horrible as this. I mean, it says on the 14th, Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop by a Washington State University police officer. I think that was for a no seatbelt, but it was at a weird time, and I think he was over there in that area that night, stalking around. I mean, And then for the phone to be off, I mean, but yet he left the phone on when he was over there stalking him. But then he turned it off when he was committing the murders, allegedly. Not a genius. You know, he was some kind of self-proclaimed criminal justice genius or whatever. All the kids that were, you know, in the classes that he was the teacher assistant of, they said he was a very difficult grader when it came to papers and tests and shit. And everybody, you know, he apparently had a need to like interject and talk over teachers and explain goofy things that didn't mean a fucking thing in very elaborate terms, and people would be like, just shut the you know, he was one of those guys, from what I understand, he was one of those guys, like they said in class, that he was that dude that would, you know, I used to hate that shit. You'd be in a lecture hall, it's like, just get this fucking, and then you got some fucking jerk off that's over there, raising it every 5 seconds. I had a history professor, and there was a lady in that class that just would do that, and finally he's like, I'm not calling on you anymore. You can raise your hand, because, I mean, she would just nonstop, the whole goddamn, and you're just like, lady, God, you know, it got to the point where kids in class are going, oh, gee, you know, here we go again. You know, every 2 seconds, she's got her hand in the air. And this guy was funny. He was one of the best professors I ever had. Anyway, they said this guy was like that. You know who those people are. You've been in class with them. You know, you have to ask doofus question about everything. It's like, read between the lines, dipshit. Read the book. Shut up. So this goes on and on. This is all just the surveillance, you know. And he put out this survey on Reddit asking for volunteers to be involved in a study that he was trying to do to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. What? I don't know when this is in proximity to when he graduated from DeSale University, but if it happened before he graduated and that was part of his, like, you know, one of his final projects or whatever to get his master's degree, okay, but I don't think so. The other thing is they think that he's been in contact with BTK. If you don't know who that is, serial killer, pretty notorious. I don't even want to get into that, but they're thinking that, you know, his daughter said that they'd been in contact. BTK's daughter, they did an interview with her. So they did a query of the phone and they pinged him, and so they've got all these maps and everything. And I mean, it's pretty damning evidence. You know, I don't know how that. I mean, they're going to have to go for it. I mean, really, what they got on the table right now is his court-appointed attorney is basically going to have to try and just get the parents of these kids to try and say don't give him the death penalty, because that's really what he's got to look forward to, is life in prison. He's not going anywhere. And he's going to be PC'd up. I mean, apparently in Pennsylvania, there was already an inmate that told him he was going to kill him. And they had him in the suicide vest, and they had him on suicide watch while he was there. And so he's going to be PC'd up. He's going to be in solitary. I mean, he's going to be, you know, it's not going to be fun, but he doesn't deserve to have any fun. I mean, it's not my call. I'm not God. But, yeah, he returned to the place. It says, 448, the cell phone came back on near Blaine, Idaho, right? And they caught him going through a coffee place, and he went into an Albertsons and went back home. And then at 9 a.m., he went to Moscow. It was that same morning. So 5 hours after he allegedly committed these murders, his cell phone was pinging at the cell phone tower that provides coverage to King Road, and that happened at 9:12 and 9:21. And it next utilized the cell resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling back to the area of the Koberger residence and arriving to that area at approximately 9:32. And here, they've got maps and everything. I mean, this is a pretty impressive affidavit of probable cause here. I mean, these guys did their homework, you know, between all the cell phone stuff they did. And I mean, like I said, from 247 to 448. It was off, so he obviously had it turned off because he was still in the car. So he went on a little drive about, went and got himself a cup of coffee, went to the, it'd be interesting to find out, like, where he went, because I would say that's probably where he ditched. He had to have been covered in blood. So he had to have ditched whatever he was wearing. It's probably where he ditched the knife. That knife is probably out there somewhere south of Moscow, somewhere in the woods. I'm not familiar with the area. I've been up there one time, but I'd be willing to bet. At that time of the morning, it's probably doubtful that anybody saw him. But you wonder if some guy working construction or something. I mean, it's a rural area out there. They caught him on some cameras. But anyway, I was saying, well, and I'm still saying that, I mean, obviously it hasn't gone through. I mean, there could be some crazy coincidences, but as I always say, there's no such thing as coincidence. This is just, there's too much here, I would think. But what do I know? I mean, I think that what the prosecutor or the defense attorney, his court-appointed attorney, she's just going to have to be like, look, it's not even about trying to prove your innocence. We're just trying to keep you from, the death. And maybe that's what the dude wants. Maybe he just wants to, but there's easier ways than to go murder 4 people. You want out of this fucking life, There's easier ways. You can go, You can take care of that if you got the fucking balls. Most of the time, people, it's just a cry for help. I remember we had a guy in my unit that dude would always, we just started calling him Suicide Watch. And the thing that sucked is every time you do it, we'd have to go on lockdown. Finally I was like, look, dog, I was like, if this is what you want, I said, it can be arranged. You know what I mean? Like, not saying I was going to do anything, but I can, there's better ways of going about this if this is what you're trying to do, and he finally stopped doing it, but what a pain in the ass. But anyway, that basically covers the whole probable cause affidavit. And I'd have to say that, the Moscow police and everybody involved in it that's a pretty good investigation that they did on this, and it's understandable why they took the time. And I also understand why the families were, upset about not hearing anything about it, but I think they knew who they were dealing with, and they realized that they had to get this thing airtight. Because, I mean, when you're talking about a dude that's going to get his doctorate in criminal justice, then you're thinking, it's like, okay. I mean, they're sitting there. I mean, most of these guys don't have that much education, right? And the crazy thing is this dude had put in an application. He wrote an essay and put in an application to work for the police department. Like in August or some shit. How crazy is that? So, and then to make that fuck up believe in the knife sheath, which makes me wonder, it's like, did he just fuck up, or did he put it there on purpose? Did he think, oh, I'll leave this right here? It's clean. I'll leave it right here, and then it'll throw them out. They'll think it was somebody that was in the military. Part of me wonders if that's how that happened. I mean, I carry a knife in my pocket all the time, but I don't go around just carrying it in my hand. Unless it got, if it's a leather deal, I don't know. I don't understand how that ended up there. And how it just had a little tiny bit of the DNA. I don't know how much was on. They said it was hardly any, but they found it on the little snap. I don't know. More will come. They took the car. We'll see. I mean, if you got a bloody ass car, it doesn't really matter how much you try and clean it out. I don't think you're going to get it cleaned up. But maybe he knew what to use. I don't know. If he missed that on the thing, I don't know. It was weird that he wanted to go back and just agree to the the extradition. But there was no way that he was going to get the information that was on the affidavit of probable cause without going through the extradition. And maybe he thought there was a way to play damage control once he got back, but I don't know that he expected this. I don't think he anticipated the look on his face when they were going through that shit. I don't think he anticipated what they came up with. The dude's screwed one way or another. Anyways. And so are we with the Republicans and Democrats. It doesn't matter. Either which way you go. And hopefully Joe has a great trip down to the border. I bet that's going to go really well. He came up with his new plan. We're going to have a cell phone app that instead of crossing over, you get on the app and you can schedule an appointment on that side of the border to claim your asylum. So they're going to let in 30,000 a month, apparently. Whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. It would just be nice. And the whole thing, the problem is that it's, in my mind, it's a humanitarian crisis. And you've got the cartels making money off it. And you got kids that are coming over unaccompanied, dying, people dying in that river, people out there freezing in the cold, and Border Patrol agents are overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, doing a terrible fucking, not that they're doing a terrible job, but they're working a terrible job. They're stuck in a lose-lose situation down there. So, I don't know. Who knows if we ever figure anything out on this whole deal. We won't with Slow Joe. I mean, he thought January 6th yesterday. He thought it was July 6th. 2 days after the 4th, huh? All right. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to bounce out. Be good or be good at it, and all things be kind and do no harm. From 52 miles east of Jellystone Park in Coyote, Wyoming, I'm signing off. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Maybe.